Good morning. Today we're going to read another section from Karen Hesse's book, Out of the Dust. We're going to begin reading today on page 160 with a poem entitled Migrants. Migrants. We'll be back when the rain comes, they say, pulling away with all their own, straining the springs of their motor cars. Don't forget us. And so they go, fleeing the blowing dust. Fleeing the fields of brown-tipped wheat, barely ankle-high, and sparse as the hair on a dog's belly. We'll be back, they say, pulling away toward Texas, Arkansas, where they can rent a farm, pull in enough cash, and maybe start again. We'll be back when it rains, they say, setting out with their bed springs and mattresses, their cook stoves and dishes, their kitchen tables, their milk goats, tied to their running boards, in rickety cages, setting out for California, where though they say they'll come back, they just might stay. If what they hear about that place is true, don't forget us, they say. But there are so many leaving, how can I remember them all? April 1935. You should have noticed a lot of again and again moments, lines that were repeated in that poem. So think about why those lines were repeated. Blankets of black. So today in your e-learning, I want you to think about this poem because you're going to connect this poem to the events of Black Sunday after you watch the video and listen to the song. So you'll want to notice similarities that you hear in the song and in the video that are also embedded in this poem, so that we as readers know that Karen Hesse is describing those events of Black Sunday. On the first clear day, we staggered out of our caves of dust into the sunlight, turning our faces to the big blue sky. On the second clear day, we believed the worst was over at last. We flocked outside, traded in town, going to stores and coming out only to find the air still clear and gentle, grateful for each easy breath. On the third clear day, summer came in April. The churches opened their arms to all comers, and all comers came. After church, folks headed for picnics, car trips. No one could stay inside. My father and I argued about the funeral of Grandma Lucas, who truly was no relation, but we ended up going anyway, driving down the road in a procession to Texoma. 6 miles out of town, the air turned cold. Birds beat their wings. Everywhere you looked, whole flocks dropping out of the sky, crowding on fence posts. I was sulking in the trunk beside my father when heaven's shadow crept across the plains, a black cloud, big and silent as Montana, boiling on the horizon and barreling towards us. More birds tumbled from the sky, frantically keeping ahead of the dust. We watched as the storm swallowed the light. The sky turned from blue to black. Night descended in an instant, and the dust was on us. The wind screamed. The blowing dirt ran so thick I couldn't see the brim of my hat. As we plunged from the truck, fleeing, the dust swarmed like it had never swarmed before. My father groped for my hand, pulled me away from the truck. We ran, a blind pitching toward the shelter of a small house, almost invisible. Our hands tight together, running toward the ghostly door, pounding on it with desperation. A woman opened her home to us, all of us, not just me and my father, but the entire funeral procession. And one after another, we tumbled inside, gasping, our lungs burning for want of air. All the lamps were lit against the dark. The house, dazed by dust, grazed weakly out. The walls shook in a howling wind. We helped tack up sheets on the windows and doors to keep the dust out. Cars and trucks, unable to go, their ignitions shortened out by the static electricity, opened up and let out more passengers who stumbled for shelter. One family came in, clutched together, their paw divining their path with a long wooden rod. If it hadn't been for the company, the storm would have broken us completely. broken us more thoroughly than the plow had broken the Oklahoma sod, more thoroughly than the burns had broken the ease of my hands. But for the sake of the crowd and the hospitality of a home that sheltered us, we held on and waited. Sitting or standing, breathing through the wet cloths as a fog of dust filled the room and settled slowly over us. When it let up a bit, some went out to bury Grandma Lucas, but my father and I, we cleaned the thick layer of grime off the truck, pulled out of the procession, and headed for home, creeping slowly along the dust-mounded road. When we got back, we found the barn half covered in dunes. I couldn't tell which rise of dust was Ma and Franklin's grave. The front door hung open, blown in by the wind. The dust lay 2 feet deep in ripply waves across the parlor floor. Dust blanketed the cook stove, the icebox, the kitchen chairs, everything deep in dust, and the piano buried in dust. While I started to shovel, my father went out to the barn. He came back. When I asked, he said, the animals weren't good, and the tractor was dusted out. And I said, it's a wonder the truck got us home. I should have held my tongue. When he tried starting the truck again, it wouldn't turn over. April 1935.